Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video I'll be predicting the 2021 NFL season. Watch until the end to find out. This season there will be 17 games instead of 16. Let's start out in the AFC. The Buffalo Bills, 14-3. The Buffalo Bills had their best season last year and wins since 1993. They won 13 games and lost 3 games on that campaign and won their first division title since 1995. In the playoffs last season, they made it to the AFC Championship game, and unfortunately, they lost that game against the Kansas City Chiefs 38-24. Since 2017, the Buffalo Bills have made the playoffs in 3 of the last 4 seasons. They had the second best offense in the NFL last year, and they should have a top 5 offense or better this season. Their defense does have some question marks coming into the new season. So my prediction is that the Buffalo Bills will win the AFC East title for a second straight season and should be one of the best teams in the AFC. The Miami Dolphins, 10-7. The Miami Dolphins didn't make the playoffs last season, but they did have a pretty good season overall last year by winning 10 games in that campaign. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2016 season, and before that, their previous playoff appearance was in the 2008 campaign. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the Dolphins have made the postseason only 4 times since 2000, and their last division title was back in the 2008 season. This season, I expect the Miami Dolphins will be a more improved team and will be a contender for a wildcard spot this year. The New England Patriots, 8-9. The New England Patriots have made the playoffs for 11 straight seasons in a row, until last season when they did miss the playoffs for the first time since 2008. Last season was horrible for the Patriots, because they finished with their first losing season since the 2000 campaign. Their record last season was 7 wins and 9 losses. When Tom Brady became the quarterback for the Patriots in the 2001 season, they made the playoffs every year except for 2 seasons and won their division title every year except 2 seasons. The Patriots' offense last season was ranked 27th in yards per game and ranked 27th in points scored last season with Cam Newton as their quarterback. Their defense, on the other hand, was their strength last season, ranking 15th in yards allowed and ranked 7th in points allowed. This season, they drafted their quarterback of the future in Mac Jones. So my prediction is that the New England Patriots will be a competitive team this season and could potentially be a wildcard team if everything goes right. The New York Jets, 4-13. The New York Jets had their second worst season in franchise history last year, winning 2 games and losing 14 games. They had missed the playoffs for 10 consecutive seasons in a row, and their last playoff appearance came in the 2010 season. The Jets had the worst offense last season in yards per game and points scored. The defense was not much better last season, ranking 24th in yards allowed and ranking 25th in points allowed. In the NFL draft, they drafted their quarterback of the future in Zach Wilson. So my prediction is that the New York Jets will be a little bit more competitive this season, but they should finish dead last in their division this year. So that's my AFC East standing predictions for the 2021 season. The Cleveland Browns, 12-5. The Cleveland Browns had a fabulous season last year by making the playoffs for the first time since the 2002 season. Last season, the Browns won 11 games and lost 5 games. The 2020 season for them was their first winning season since 2010. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the Cleveland Browns have only made the playoffs twice since 2000. They also only have had 3 winning seasons in the same time. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Division Round game and lost that game 22-17. Their offense last season was ranked 16th in yards per game and ranked 14th in points scored. The Browns' defense last season was ranked 21st in points allowed and ranked 17th in yards allowed. This season, I suspect that the Cleveland Browns will win their first division title for the first time since 1989 and could potentially make a Super Bowl appearance this year. The Baltimore Ravens, 11-6. The Baltimore Ravens had another great season last year by making the playoffs for a 3rd consecutive season in a row. Last season, the Ravens won 11 games and lost 5 games. Since the Baltimore Ravens started playing in the 1996 season, they have made the playoffs 13 times in 25 years of existence. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Buffalo Bills in the AFC Division Round game and lost that game 17-3. The Ravens' offense last season was ranked 19th in yards per game and ranked 7th in points scored. Their defense was ranked 2nd in points allowed and ranked 7th in yards allowed last season. So my prediction is that the Baltimore Ravens will be a great team again this season and should be a division title contender this year. They also should be a wildcard team this campaign. The Pittsburgh Steelers, 8-9. The Pittsburgh Steelers had a great season last year by winning 12 games and losing 4 games, and that's the most wins for them since the 2017 season. The 2020 season was also their first playoff season since the 2017 season. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Cleveland Browns in the AFC wildcard game and lost that game 48-37. Even though their 2020 season was a success, it was still a disappointment overall by being eliminated in the first playoff game last season because on how good they were last year. The Steelers' offense last season ranked 25th in yards per game and ranked 12th in points scored. Their defense was their strength last season, ranking 30 points allowed and ranking 30 in yards allowed last season. I think their defense will be the strength again this season. So my prediction is that the Pittsburgh Steelers won't be as good as last season, but could be a wildcard team if everything goes right this year. The Cincinnati Bengals, 6-11. The Cincinnati Bengals had another horrible season last year by missing the playoffs for a 5th consecutive season in a row. Their record last season was 4 wins, 11 losses, and 1 tie. The Bengals' offense last season was not their strength, ranking 29th in yards per game and ranked 29th in points scored. Their defense was more of their strength last season, ranking 22nd in points allowed and ranking 26th in yards allowed last season. This season, their quarterback, Joe Burrow, will be back after a season-ending injury last season and should be really good this year. So my prediction is that the Cincinnati Bengals won't be a playoff team this season, but will be a step in the right direction. So that's my AFC North standing predictions for the 2021 season. The Kansas City Chiefs, 14-3. The Kansas City Chiefs had a tremendous season last year by going to the Super Bowl for the 2nd straight season in a row. In the Super Bowl last season, they played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and unfortunately they lost that game 31-9. Their record last season was 14 wins and 2 losses, and that's their best season in wins in franchise history. They have made the playoffs for 6 consecutive seasons in a row. The Chiefs' offense last season was the best overall, ranking 1st in yards per game and ranking 6th in points scored. Their defense was ranked 5th in points allowed and ranked 16th in yards allowed last season. I absolutely think that the Kansas City Chiefs will be one of the best teams in the NFL this season and could make a 3rd Super Bowl appearance in a row. The Los Angeles Chargers, 10-7. The Los Angeles Chargers missed the playoffs for a 2nd straight season in a row. Their record last season was 7 wins and 9 losses. Last season for the Chargers wasn't a great season, but they did have a pretty good season with their rookie quarterback Justin Herbert. In Justin Herbert's first season in the NFL, he broke the record for most passing touchdowns by a rookie previously held by Baker Mayfield. He passed for over 4,000 yards and 31 touchdowns in his rookie season, and he also won Rookie of the Year last year. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the Chargers have made the playoffs 7 times since the 2000 season. The Chargers' offense last season was ranked 9th in yards per game and ranked 18th in points scored. Their defense was ranked 23rd in points allowed and ranked 10th in yards allowed last season. By all means, I think the Los Angeles Chargers will be a really good team this season and could be a wild-card team this year. The Las Vegas Raiders, 7-10. The Las Vegas Raiders had their first season in Las Vegas last year by winning 8 games and losing 8 games. That was the first season with a record of 500 since the 2016 season. They had missed the playoffs for 4 consecutive seasons in a row, and their last playoff appearance came in the 2016 campaign. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they had made the playoffs only 4 times since the 2000 season. The Raiders' offense last season was ranked 8th in yards per game and ranked 10th in points scored. Their defense was their kryptonite last season, ranking 30th in points allowed and ranking 25th in yards allowed. So my prediction is the Las Vegas Raiders won't be as good as last season, but will be a competitive team in their 2nd year in Las Vegas. The Denver Broncos, 5-12. The Denver Broncos had a horrible season last year, finishing with a record of 5 wins and 11 losses. They had missed the playoffs for 5 consecutive seasons in a row, and their last playoff appearance came in the 2015 season when they won the Super Bowl. Their last winning season came in the 2016 campaign. The Broncos' offense last season was not that great, ranking 23rd in yards per game and ranking 28th in points scored. Their defense was also not that great either, ranking 25th in points allowed and ranking 21st in yards allowed last season. The Broncos brought Teddy Bridgewater to compete with quarterback Drew Lock. So my prediction is the Denver Broncos won't be that good this season. But the question is this season is whether Drew Lock is the future quarterback or is it Teddy Bridgewater. So that's my AFC West standing predictions for the 2021 season. The Tennessee Titans, 12-5. The Tennessee Titans had a great season last year by making the playoffs for a second straight season in a row and winning their division title for the first time since 2008. Their record last season was 11 wins and 5 losses. That was their best season in wins since the 2008 season. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Baltimore Ravens in the AFC wildcard game and lost that game 20-13. The Titans' offense was a top 3 unit last season, ranking 30 in yards per game and ranking 4th in points scored. Their defense was their weakness last season, ranking 24th in points allowed and ranking 28th in yards allowed. This season, the Titans have an explosive offense with one of the best runner backs in the league, and they also have Julio Jones and A.J. Brown on this offense. I absolutely think that the Tennessee Titans are an underrated team this season, and they should win their division for a second consecutive season in a row. The Indianapolis Colts, 9-8. The Indianapolis Colts had a good season last year by making the playoffs after missing it the year before. Their record last season was 11 wins and 5 losses. That was their best season in wins since the 2014 season when Andrew Luck was their quarterback. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Buffalo Bills in the AFC wildcard game and lost that game 27-24. The Colts' offense last season was ranked 10th in yards per game and ranked 9th in points scored. Their defense was ranked 10th in points allowed and ranked 8th in yards allowed last season. Their quarterback last season was Philip Rivers, and this season was supposed to be Carson Wentz, but he suffered a foot injury that required surgery. He underwent the surgery on August 2nd of 2021. So my prediction is the Indianapolis Colts could be a good team this season, but it all depends on who their quarterback is this year. The Jacksonville Jaguars, 3-14. The Jacksonville Jaguars were the worst team in the NFL last season, winning 1 game and losing 15 games. They had missed the playoffs for 3 consecutive seasons in a row, and their last playoff appearance came the 2017 season. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they had made the playoffs only 3 times since the 2000 season. The Jaguars' offense last season was ranked 28th in yards per game and ranked 30th in points scored. Their defense was one of the worst in the league last season, ranking 31st in points allowed and ranking 31st in yards allowed last season. In the NFL draft, they drafted their quarterback of the future in Trevor Lawrence. So my prediction is the Jacksonville Jaguars won't finish dead last in their division this season, but will be a little bit more competitive this year. The Houston Texans, 2-15. The Houston Texans had a horrible season last year by winning only 4 games and losing 12 on that campaign. Last season, they also missed the playoffs for the first time since the 2017 season. Since the Texans were established in the 2002 season, they had made the playoffs only 6 times in their franchise history. The Texans' offense last season was ranked 13th in yards per game and ranked 19th in points scored. Their defense, on the other hand, was horrible last season, ranking 27th in points allowed and ranking 30th in yards allowed last season. By all means, I think the Houston Texans will be the worst team in the NFL this season. So that's my AFC South standing predictions for the 2021 season. The Dallas Cowboys, 10-7. The Dallas Cowboys had a disappointing season last year by missing the playoffs for 2nd consecutive season in a row. Their record last season was 6 wins and 10 losses. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have made the playoffs 7 times, with winning only 3 playoff games since the 2000 season. The Cowboys' offense last season ranked 14th in yards per game and ranked 17th in points scored. Their defense, on the other hand, was horrible last season, ranking 28th in points allowed and ranking 23rd in yards allowed last season. I absolutely think that the Dallas Cowboys will have a bounce-back season this year and could win their division title this season. The Washington Football Team, 9-8. The Washington Football Team had a pretty good season last year by winning their first division title for the first time since the 2015 season. Their record last season was 7 wins and 9 losses, and they made their first playoff appearance since the 2015 season. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC wildcard game and lost that game 31-23. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the Washington Football Team have only made the playoffs 5 times since the 2000 season, and their deepest playoff run was to the NFC Division Round once back in 2005. Their offense last season was not that great of a unit, ranking 30th in yards per game and ranking 25th in points scored. Their defense, on the other hand, was fantastic, ranking 4th in points allowed and ranking 2nd in yards allowed last year. So my prediction is that the Washington Football Team will be pretty good this season and should be a contender for a wildcard spot or potentially win the division again this season. The New York Giants sits in 11. The New York Giants had another bad season last year by missing the playoffs for a fourth consecutive season in a row. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2016 season. The Giants' record last year was 6 wins and 10 losses. Since the New York Giants won the Super Bowl in the 2011 season, they have only made the playoffs once since then and have only had one winning season since. The Giants' offense last season was pretty bad, ranking 31st in yards per game and ranking 31st in points scored. Their defense, on the other hand, was their strength, ranking 9th in points allowed and ranking 12th in yards allowed last season. I think the New York Giants will be a better team overall this season, but won't be a playoff team this year. The Philadelphia Eagles, 4-13. The Philadelphia Eagles had a horrible season last year by missing the playoffs for the first time since the 2016 season. Their record last year was 4 wins and 11 losses and 1 tie. That was their worst season in wins since the 2012 season. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have made the playoffs 13 times since the 2000 season. The Eagles' offense last season was not great, ranking 24th in yards per game and ranking 26th in points scored. Their defense was ranked 20th in points allowed and ranked 19th in yards allowed last season. By all means, I think the Philadelphia Eagles will finish dead last in the NFC East Division this season, but won't be the worst team in the NFC this year. So that's my NFC East standing predictions for the 2021 season. The Green Bay Packers, 13-4. The Green Bay Packers had another great season last year, winning 13 games and losing 3 games for a second consecutive season in a row. They have made the playoffs for 2 seasons in a row, and their last non-playoff season was back in the 2018 campaign. Green Bay was 1 win away from the Super Bowl last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Conference Championship game, but unfortunately they lost that game 31-26. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have made the playoffs 15 times since the 2000 season and winning 1 Super Bowl back in the 2010 season. The Packers' offense last season was a top 5 unit, ranking 5th in yards per game and ranking 1st in points scored. Their defense was ranked 13th in points allowed and ranked 9th in yards allowed last season. So I absolutely think that the Green Bay Packers could be one of the best teams in the NFC this season as long as Aaron Rodgers is their quarterback this year. They could make a Super Bowl appearance this season. The Minnesota Vikings, 9-8. The Minnesota Vikings had a disappointing season last year by missing the playoffs after making the playoffs the year before. Their record last season was 7 wins and 9 losses. They have been making the playoffs every odd year and missing the playoffs every even year since 2015. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have made the playoffs 8 times since the 2000 season, and their deepest playoff run was the NFC Championship game twice back in 2009 and 2017. The Vikings' offense last season was a pretty good unit, ranking 4th in yards per game and ranked 11th in points scored. Their defense, on the other hand, was not that great, ranking 29th in points allowed and ranking 27 yards allowed last season. So my prediction is the Minnesota Vikings will have a bounce-back season this year and could potentially make a wildcard spot. The Chicago Bears, 6-11. The Chicago Bears had an okay season last year by winning 8 games and losing 8 games. They had made the playoffs last year after missing it the year before. In the playoffs last season, they played against the New Orleans Saints in the NFC wildcard game and lost that game 21-9. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the Bears have made the playoffs 6 times since the 2000 season, and their last Super Bowl appearance came in the 2006 season. The Bears' offense last season was not that great, ranking 26th in yards per game and ranking 22nd in points scored. Their defense, though, was their strength last season, ranking 14th in points allowed and ranking 11th in yards allowed. In the NFL draft, they drafted their quarterback of the future in Justin Fields. So my prediction is the Chicago Bears won't be as good as last season, but they will be a competitive team this year overall. The Detroit Lions, 3-14. The Detroit Lions had another bad season last year by missing the playoffs for a 4th consecutive season in a row. Their last playoff appearance came in the 2016 season. Last season, their record was 5 wins and 11 losses, and their last winning season came in the 2017 campaign. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the Lions have made the playoffs only 3 times since the 2000 season. The Lions' offense last season ranked 20th yards per game and ranked 20th in points scored. Their defense, on the other hand, was the worst last season, ranking 32nd in points allowed and ranking 32nd in yards allowed last season. By all means, I think the Detroit Lions will be the worst team in the NFC this season. So that's my NFC North standing predictions for the 2021 season. The Los Angeles Rams, 12-5. The Los Angeles Rams had a pretty good season last year by making the playoffs after missing it the year before. Their record last season was 10 wins and 6 losses. The Rams have currently made the playoffs in 3 of the last 4 seasons. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Green Bay Packers in the NFC Division Round game and lost that game 32-18. The Rams' offense was ranked 11th in yards per game and ranked 23rd in points scored. Their defense was the best in the league last season, ranking 1st in points allowed and ranking 1st in yards allowed. In the offseason, the Rams traded Jared Goff to the Detroit Lions for Matthew Stafford. So my prediction is the Los Angeles Rams will be a great team this season and could potentially make a Super Bowl appearance this year. The Seattle Seahawks, 11-6. The Seattle Seahawks had their best season in wins since their last Super Bowl appearance in the 2014 season. Their record last season was 12 wins and 4 losses. They had made the playoffs for 3 consecutive seasons in a row, and their last non-playoff season came in 2017. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC wildcard game and lost that game 30-20. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the Seahawks have made the playoffs 14 times since the 2000 season and making 3 Super Bowl appearances. The Seahawks offense last season was ranked 17th in yards per game and ranked 8th in points scored. Their defense was not that great last season, ranking 15th in points allowed and ranking 22nd in yards allowed. This season, they do have one of the best quarterbacks in Russell Wilson. So my prediction is that the Seattle Seahawks will be a great team again this season and will be a contender for a division title this year. They should also be a dark horse Super Bowl contender this season. The San Francisco 49ers, 10-7. The San Francisco 49ers had a horrible season last year by missing the playoffs after making the Super Bowl the year before. They were decimated by injuries last year, and by the middle of the season, they were completely unrecognizable from the juggernaut that seemed to be forming the year before. Last season, their record was 6 wins and 10 losses. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have made the playoffs 6 times since the 2000 season. The 49ers offense last season was ranked 15th in yards per game and ranked 21st in points scored. Even with all the injuries last season, their defense ranked 17th in points allowed and ranked 5th in yards allowed. This season, their defense should be a lot better overall. I suspect that the San Francisco 49ers will have a bounce-back season this year and will be a wild-card contender this season. The Arizona Cardinals, 8-9. The Arizona Cardinals had an okay season last year by winning 8 games and losing 8 games. They had missed the playoffs for 5 straight seasons in a row, and their last playoff appearance came in 2015. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they had made the playoffs only 4 times since the 2000 season and making 1 Super Bowl appearance back in the 2008 season. The Cardinals' offense last season was ranked 6th in yards per game and ranked 13th in points scored. Their defense last season ranked 12th in points allowed and ranked 13th in yards allowed. So I absolutely think that the Arizona Cardinals will be a really competitive team this season and could get a wildcard spot this year. So that's my NFC West standing predictions for the 2021 season. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 14-3. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers won the Super Bowl last season against the Kansas City Chiefs 31-9. Their record last season was 11 wins and 5 losses, and they made their first playoff appearance since the 2007 season. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have made the playoffs 6 times since the 2000 season, and making 2 Super Bowl appearances and winning both of those games in 2002 and 2020. The Buccaneers' offense last season was ranked 7th in yards per game and ranked 3rd in points scored. Their defense last season ranked 8th in points allowed and ranked 6th in yards allowed. In today's NFL, it's nearly impossible to repeat, though Tom Brady was the last quarterback to do it. Tampa Bay will feature the top defense in the NFL next year and will be a force to reckon with during their title defense. So my prediction is that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers will win their division this season and will be a threat to make a 2nd straight Super Bowl appearance. The New Orleans Saints, 9-8. The New Orleans Saints had another great season last year by making the playoffs for a 4th consecutive season in a row. Their record last season was 12 wins and 4 losses. In the playoffs last season, they played against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFC Divisional Round game and lost that game 30-20. Since the beginning of the 21st century, the Saints have made the playoffs 10 times since the 2000 season and making 1 Super Bowl appearance. The Saints' offense last season ranked 12th in yards per game and ranked 5th in points scored. Their defense last season was pretty good, ranking 5th in points allowed and ranking 4th in yards allowed. Unfortunately, last season was Drew Brees' final season, and this season will be either Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston as the quarterback. By all means, I think that New Orleans Saints won't be as good as last season, but they could surprise us by getting a wildcard spot this year. The Carolina Panthers, 7-10. The Carolina Panthers had another bad season last year by winning 5 games and losing 11 games for the second straight season in a row. They have made the playoffs for 3 consecutive seasons in a row. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have made the playoffs 7 times since the 2000 season. The Panthers' offense last season ranked 21st in yards per game and ranked 24th in points scored. Their defense last season ranked 18th in points allowed and ranked 18th in yards allowed. This season, their quarterback will be Sam Darnold, who they got in a trade with the New York Jets. So my prediction is the Carolina Panthers will be overall a better team this season, but they won't be a playoff team this year. The Atlanta Falcons, 6-11. The Atlanta Falcons had a horrible season last year with a record of 4 wins and 12 losses. They have missed the playoffs for 3 consecutive seasons in a row, and they haven't had a winning season since 2017. Since the beginning of the 21st century, they have made the playoffs 8 times since the 2000 season, making 1 Super Bowl appearance back in the 2016 season. The Falcons' offense last season was ranked 18th in yards per game and ranked 16th in points scored. Their defense was pretty bad last season, ranking 19th in points allowed and ranking 29th in yards allowed. So my prediction is that the Atlanta Falcons won't be that great this season and will miss the playoffs for 4th consecutive season in a row. So that's my NFC South standing predictions for the 2021 season. What are your guys' predictions for the 2021 NFL season? Join me in the comment section down below and tell me what you guys think. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that like button, make sure you hit that notification bell to be notified of new videos in the future. Please share this video with friends and family. My name is Nathan, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to just keep loving sports, I'll see you next time.